ただいま、おかえり。ハイサのお庭へようこそ。レムナント2やっていこうと思います。さあさあ、困ったことになりました。やってくれと言われているのだが、なんか方法ないの？本当にないの？ちょっとごめんね。なんか彼女の質問じゃん。一人をやれば全員が救えるみたいな話嫌なんですけど。やだもう。まあでもずっと苦しめられるわけだよな。本当になんか隠しスイッチとかねえの？ねえな。やったらホールが開いてワンサが出てくるんだろうな、これな。本当にないの？隠し扉とないんかい。話せるな。話せるけどもう話せない。さあやれって言われてる。くそー。じゃあすまねえ。ちょっと周りからやるのね。ちょっと待ってね。大変なお騒ぎになっている。これはダメ。危ない。回復させてもらわない。死んじまう。死だ。チャレンジャイ。何が起こってるか分かんない。やめて。回復して。なるほど。弓矢の出てた。ちょっと無理。逃げて。一旦逃げよう。そこはダメ。なんかよし、回復した。ちょ一旦立て直そう。しっかりリロードして。まずはお前だいか。痛い。よくないね。後ろからやられた。なるほど。はじめちょっとあそこ剣でやるしかねえな。やばいし、ちょっと待って。ファイヤーじゃなくていい。 HP です。クリティカル上昇大事。どうかな。お家帰って強化できないかな。ちょっと厳しいね。ちょっとどころじゃない。厳しい。まあ囲まれるのが分かってるから次はもうちょっと上手に始めますけど、鉄補充してない。
Don't keep trying.
ダメだ。サンキュー。Come back anytime。よし。すぐでかいの集まってきたね。回復弾売ってる暇もなかったな。どうしたのか。 点ダメージ、モッド持続。ああ、変えられない、変えられないね。よし、行こう。この人救えるんじゃないかな。やっぱダメか。よし、じゃあすまねえな。回復一玉置いとく。そんな気がするね。こっちに逃げよう。回復できんかった。マジかよ。走って走って走って。走れない。走ってる押してるつもりが走れてない。んでなんか掴まれてなんだ。ちょっと回復。ダメダメダメ、直線上ダメ。痛い痛い痛い。見え見え、何が起きてる。ちょっと待って待って待って待って、まずいまずい。足遅なってる。回復してリロードして。やめてきちゃう。よし、一匹退治。もうちょい。誰がいる。投げてくるやつはあれか。よし。ああ、生きてる。よかったー。うわー、やりきれたー。回復シート大事だったー。はあ、なんじゃおりゃ。大変でしたわー。ショットガンだったな、ここ。よし、よかったー。生きてる、よかった。無理かと思ったよ。あなたを切らないように頑張りました。あー、これは嬉しい。おかえり。大丈夫か。リアルだよ。しっかりして。生きてるよ。
I have not tasted air unmixed with the foul humors of the tangle in an age's age, nor dared I dream that I ever might again, much less feel the soft touch of good soil beneath my hooves, or the kiss of the wind on my free fur. Faithless, faithless have I been, and yet Paxaltec came. With war in its right hand and temperance in its left, the Paxaltec came, and I am saved. Two-handed warrior. It has my allegiance, whatever may come. Paxaltec have a gift for death, this much is true, but they are not all destroyers. Perhaps if it fights with us, perhaps the root may yet be crushed under the wheel of time. Take this, though it be a relic of we lamer, stewards of death. Wield it in defense of life.
ありがとう。武骨をもらった。ありがとうって言いたいけど、これからどうするんだのが気になるな。 でもありがと
No
う。
thanks is needed, for I owe it a debt unpayable. I think I shall linger here a
ああ、よ
while
かったよ
yet.
かった。
Many are those who fell on these blood-soaked steps. No, some are now naught but bones. They each deserve the funerary rites of royalty. These I shall endeavor to complete with whatever time is left to me. If its road should ever wind this way again, grace me with a visit. There are yet tales of Yaisha, I might tell it, if it cares to hear them shared.
ああ、ごめん、お話聞いてっていいかな。いやー、よかったー。これこの人撃ってたらこの人死んじゃったかもしんないね。よかったよかった、端っこちょいちょいで。よしよし、聞いてみよう。ブラッドムーンについて何か知らないか？
Ah, what a keen eye has the two-handed warrior. Indeed, the Rubicon Knight is a tantalizing topic for all scholars. I suspect it is no mere coincidence that the warrior should unwind the knot under the light of a blood moon. The blood moon has long been known to us as the wounded brightness. It is said to have sailed in the night sky throughout the plague of the place that was. As such, modern Pan viewed the blood moon as an omen, a sign portending our doom. I would have been counted among these sour soothsayers at one time, and yet, for my savior to appear so nigh the red darkness, this shifts my thoughts. Perhaps the blood moon is not an omen, but merely a herald. Change, two-handed one. I count it now a sign of change. For good or ill, I cannot say. Does this slake the two-handed one's thirst for knowledge? Or would Yaisha's history make a fine dessert?
うん、デザートに聞いていいかな。疲れてると思うけど教えて。そうか、不吉な予兆だったのが吉兆にこそならんけど変化の象徴になったんだね。よかったな、生きててよかったよ。
Indeed, two-handed one. On the contrary, it has been ages since I felt so very much
宴する
alive.
か一緒に。
Let us first be properly introduced. Once I was called Lich, foremost of the Lemir. High priest of the dead. How I gloried in that title. Would that I had known the irony.
どっちも聞きたい。レミールとは具体的に何度も聞きたいけど、死者の司祭も聞きたいな。ネクロマンシー、まあでもレミールって何
A
ですか？
funerary priest of the deathless, the highborn,
富
one
士。
who wraps the powerful in glory, and a Muslim who seals the secrets of the eternal empress with sweet seed oil and with night sap. We guarded the flesh of the great and sought their resurrection. Among these trusted sacred Pan, I was the utmost. I relished the favor of her permanence. More fool I.
はあ。これもともといたヤイシャの話かな。女王は富士の実食べきっちゃっててっていう、その人のこと？それとは別のお話かな。ちょっとわかんねえな。で、死者の司祭とは
For
何ですか？
many epochs, the highborn did not fear the flow of time, for the fruit of the
そうだよね。
thane
木の
tree
実
kept
が
it at bay.
富士を与えるっ
But
て言ってたもんね。
there are other ways to die. Misadventure. The Eternal Empress dreamed of defeating this final terminus. If life could be taken, could it not be given back? The flesh was preserved against that question's answer. This was the province of the Lemir. But let us start at the beginning. Much would I have it know. And to know all, it must know what is first. Would it hear the history of the pan?
聞いとこう。まあだから女王は生き返らせの秘術を使おうとしてたのか。で、死の司祭って言ってるからネクロマンシーするつもりだったのかな。
In the time before time, the pan lived in the place that was. It is said that there came a great plague that ravaged the land so that the fields were seeded only with the bones of the dead and yielded only the cries of the bereft. With his flock drowning in woe, the leader of the pan held forth a great decree. 100 ships were built to hold 10,000 souls. With their god of many faces cutting the waves before them, the pan that were ventured across the Vilkmarza, the dark sea, through the long night. The vaunts prayed and the red widows wept, for no one knew if the dark sea had a far shore. 100 days lit the 100 ships, and 100 nights drew their swaddling across them too. But on the 101st day, as the Red Widow in the foremost ship bowed her horns to the god of many faces, a bird lit between them, singing, "Glory to the pan, for they have reached the King Mother." Yaisha rose like the dawn before them, unseen, untamed, and free.
住んだところを位牌者って名付けるんだね。そっかそっか。レッドウィドウとはなんだ。パンのリーダーは誰だったんだ。波を乗り越えられると言ったが、この紙には肉体があったのか。まあそうね、パンのリーダーは誰だったの。
The king who was, him known to the pan as Kolket the War-Handed. Later, Kolket the Woe-Begone. And at last, as Kolket the Wise. Quick of blade was he in his youth, a fearsome general who watered the tree of progress with the lifeblood of many enemies. But the exploits of youth brought Kolket no peace in age. They say he took the plague as fate's judgment against his warlike eye. Fate offered a choice: flee the land of his fathers, or end his line as the king of death. Kolket hesitated no more in pilgrimage than he had in war. He raised up ships as once he had raised regiments. He sailed from the place that was with a heart full of hope. He was never to see Aesha's shores. He passed in peace before the crossing's end, greeting death with grace.
そうなんだ。そっか。まあ自分が病になったのはいろんな血を流してきたからだって。で、皆ここで死ぬというか行くかを迫られて生き残ることを選んだんだね。だから賢者になったんだ、最終的に。なるほど。で、波を飲み越えられると言ったが、この神には肉体があったのか。
The god of many faces had been with the pan since the place that was. Longer. None speak of a time before its guardianship. It was a god as real as the soil beneath us. A god one could visit, a god one could touch. Its ways were not known, but all agreed it loved us and ever would. More would I have it here of this, for this tendril twines with its own. But patience two-handed one, each thing in time.
長くなるからね。そっかそっか。なんか一つのなんかお話、短編の本を読んでるみたいな気分になるね。描写がね綺麗だよね。長いけどね。でレッドウィドウって何？
In those days, there was no empress. There were no queens. Colket the Wise passed on the dark sea and left no heir. It was only agreed that the clergy should step in where Colket had stood. The Vaughn's spoke for the many-faced one, and the Red Widows spoke for the sun, stone, sky, and stream. It had been ever thus. Now, they linked hands to cradle the destiny of the Pan. For 80 days, the Vaughn's fell prostrate upon Yaisha's unfamiliar shore. They prayed for a sign that our searching was over, and that this forest should be ours. On the 80th day, two forms emerged from the depths of the jungle. First came a doe with coat of red. Where it walked, the soil gave forth flowers and sweet berries, and they took it as a sign of grace. But behind the doe came another, a wolf with fur as lightless as the obsidian waves the Pan had so lately crossed. Surely this great beast was a portent of death. Yet desperate were these threadbare priests of old, and of these visions to their charges, these Vaughn's spoke only one.
ああ、なるほどね。司祭はいいことだけ、その命を司る銅の方だけを教えてたのか。ラベジャーのこと言うとね、またパニックになるからな。パニックになるけど、パニックになったところで逃げ場もないしね。そっかそっか。彼らは狼族を隠したのか。
Those who glimpse the doe often glimpse the wolf, for the latter seems compelled to pursue the former. Yet, to hear those early Vaughn's tell it would be to hear of many different wolves in pursuit, and only one doe. A simple deception, but a far-reaching one. Modern Pan know the truth. What must it be to spend an eternity chasing that which one might catch but may not kill? For the wolf and the doe have often met, antler and tooth, hoof and claw. The doe may spill the wolf's blood, and the wolf may taste the doe's flesh, but never the other's life to take. Yaisha itself forbids it. They say the chase has driven the wolf quite mad.
ああ、まあ生と死どっちも切り離せないからな。そっか。鹿さんだね。鹿さんがじゃあどうなんだね。そっかそっか。彼らは同族のことを話したか。
And why not? The doe
まあそうで
fills
すよ
all
ね。
who glimpse
童話
it
教えますよ
with a
ね。
spirit of hope and a sense of growth. It leaps among the shrub and bramble even now, even with Yaisha sundered by the root. There are those who think it more than a spirit, a god in waiting. These call themselves the children of the red doe. The carpenter's daughter was one such. May her faith be rewarded. May her spirit roam the forest alongside the doe forever free. With the assurance of the Vaughn's, The Pan took to Yaisha and she to us. And for a time, there was stillness. Pan were born who had never known the land that was, nor the endless sea at their backs. One such was called Genus. She was but 15 springs when she felt the calling of the Red Widows, and not 3 more when she felt the touch of sickness. As Genus approached the door of death, she sought her sisters, for there were no Lamer yet, and it was the Red Widows who ushered the Pan into the soil. But Genus's malady was known to the Widow Mother, to her, to the Elder Pan. It seemed the plague had found them again, even on this distant shore. Genus was shunned, cast out into the jungle, and her name was forbidden from Pan lips. None among them could have foreseen what would come next.
病気にかかったからって今やっと新しい新天地に来て平和に暮らしてるからっつって追いやったの？それは恨みと呪いのたたりの始まりなんじゃない？何があったの？やだね。
The Red Widow Genus had been cast into the jungle to be forgotten. But fate had other plans. After many days in the jungle, Genus emerged. The Pan were humbled, for all signs of plague had been lifted from the young Genus, replaced by a regal gait none could deny. Fascinated, all assembled to hear her tale. And quite a tale it was. Genus spoke of a vision that had come upon her as she lay in the moss, gasping out her last. In her vision, the plagues had returned. Pan, young and old, wailed and keened and spat their last blood on Yaisha's pristine sand. But then, when all seemed lost, a great tree rose out of the jungle, strange and wonderful, and heavy with luminous fruit. This tree, the Thane, she named it, gave all who ate of it a life unending. The Pan embraced it, and their glory stretched on for 1,000 epochs. Genus rose to power on this. A spire built of words.
はあ、彼女はそもそも本当に病気だったのか？そうなんで元気になったんだろう？何が起きた？闇の力に頼ったのか？なんだろうね。なんで
It is difficult to say. Genus has had charge of her own legend for an age of ages. Suffice to say, there is enough truth to her vision for me to know her personally, though I was born some 30 mothers hence, and yet, in knowing her, I find its question impossible to answer. But we get ahead of ourselves, two-handed one.
そうか、真相わからずか。ジナスが権力を握ったのどうやって？
By spreading her message of doom and salvation. The Red Widows were easy converts, inclined to believe their sister, and eager to spread her vision to all the Pan. In time, they held more sway than even the Vaughn's. It was a great shift. It would not be the last. Among the Red Widows, Genus was quickly elevated to Widow Mother. The crops flourished, and the villages spread. The jungle receded from the shore. Many seasons passed, and Genus grew stooped and lined as all Pan before her had. In her 77th winter, Genus had another vision. The Thane called to her, and she told her people it was time to seek it out. For the calamity was imminent. 500 Pan were assembled to undertake the expedition. Genus herself, a contingent of Red Widows, a party from each of the villages. Many imagined they would never see their queen again. Those that lived long enough came to know the taste of those words. When Genus, now as young and beautiful as the day she first beat death, emerged from the jungle once more, with 49 immortals at her back, she had been reborn a second time, as an Empress Eternal.
はあ、また天の不老不死の実を食べたってこと見つけて。で、結果生きてるの？でもシワシワになってたって言ってたもんね。あ、シワシワになってたけど、やっぱそうやって食べて生き返ったのか。じゃあ生きてるのかな？
Unless
今
I
何
am
女
much
王？
mistaken, the Empress lives yet, for no funerary smoke has filled the sky above her ziggurat. If the Pan vanish from Yesha's soil, I imagine she will be the last to depart.
ああ、不老不死。じゃあどこで会えるのかな？で、合計で49人か。あとの500人はどうしたんだ？確かに。
For years they searched the forest, battling hunger, storms, and beasts red of tooth and claw. 20 winters passed. Many succumbed to death or to doubt by the 21st spring. Only 5 Red Widows and 44 common Pans stood at Genus's side. It was they whom she led into the clearing. It was they who beheld the Thane. It was they who tasted the fruit and felt time's weight fall from their shoulders.
はあ。でもまた最悪に襲われるって言ってて、それが今のこの状態なんかな。
No plague has touched the Pan since. But calamity wears faces nearly as numerous as our god of old. With death thus leashed, the eternal Genus and her immortals brought forth an empire heretofore unknown. Great ziggurats were hewn from the living rock, and at their feet grew great cities lit by arcane magics. Genus's prophecies all came about, save one. If only the Pan of that epoch had wondered as it does two-handed one, what of the great calamity? But none worried, save a few vaunts. The old ways were dying, and the Empress was not. No achievement seemed beyond the reach of the Pan. It was then that the wolf came.
はあ。なるほど。死の狼また帰ってきた。はあはあ。で、その果実を食べたのは不老不死のものだけか他にはいなかった
But
の
the
か？
story of Yaisha is the story of who tastes the fruit of the Thane tree. 49 immortals begat many more. A deathless aristocracy. They traded favor with the Empress, traded years of life itself like fishmongers at market.
狼族は
They
どうなったの？
called it the Ravager, the very obsidian beast the vaunts of old had glimpsed and hidden. It sprang from the jungle as sudden as a squall. It made no more than mutton of the bravest warrior. Fear fell like night across the empire. Death roamed Yaisha. Ravenous death none could tame. There were those who would have seen the beast slain, but the Ravager was never much glimpsed that the Red Doe should not follow, and vice versa. The green things of the jungle sprang from the red doe's feet. But on what do green things grow, if not the flesh of departed life? Who knew what would become of the doe if the ravager were felled? Who knew what would become of the jungle? Who knew what would become of the thane tree? It was the twice humbled Vaughn's who kept the Empire from vanishing down the Ravager's throat, for the Vaughn's had pondered the beast since it first appeared to them on Yaisha's shores. It was they who had learned to listen to Aethir's song. They who learned to appease the Ravager with tribute, with dance, and with music. Balance returned, and the wheel of time rolled on.
そうか、片方をやっぱり笛吹きの人が言ってたもんね。やってしまえばバランスを欠いて殺戮が復讐がね、ラベジャーサイドからの殺戮が起きたみたいに言ってたもんね。だから歌うことにしたんだって言ってたもんね。そっかそっか。イヤーピールの歌だよね、それ。
The song of all living things. It permeates our forest. It whispers in the leaves, thrums in the soil, shines in the sun, babbles in the stream. The Vaughn's devote themselves to the song's mystery. They play it to tap its power, as other Pan might use the energy of a crystal, or the heat of a flame. Those attuned in prayer hear it strongest. But all may catch its strain from time to time, even a Paxotech.
そうかそうか。で、ラベジャーはジナスの原因に現れた最悪だったのか違うよね。こっち、この病気の方だよね。
For that was hardly the last calamity to befall the Pan at Yaisha. With the Ravager appeased, the Empress dreamed of rule eternal. She should likely have had her wish. But for one thing, the thane tree, that of the fruit of immortality, began to die. For many lifetimes her permanence hid this knowledge from all who served her, slave and immortal alike. And why not? She had amassed a great store of fruit, and surely something could be done to save the tree. Why crack the very bedrock of her society? But the tree's decline could not be arrested. Fruit was rationed. Noble lineages withered. We lay mere, once prepared for the final death of death, only those immortals who had fallen in battle or by misadventure. Now, we found ourselves winding wizened nobles in sap and muslin by the hundreds. Perhaps what came next was inevitable.
ああ、どうしよう。話聞いてるだけで一本終わっちまうけど、多分これ次で最後だよね。気が枯れるレムナント1の話まで来てるからね。何が起きたんだい？
Insurrection, revolt. This was the fire that was to sweep through Yaisha's jungle. For a life of lifetimes, the eternal empress had hidden the decline of the thane tree, but like the Vaughn's of old, had underestimated the power of one young plague-addled red widow. Genus herself failed to foresee the power of one called Navun. Ah, Navun was one of her eternity's own guards. How she learned of the rot at the roots of the thane tree, I cannot say. I know only that she had no taste for the Empress's deceptions. Navun fled the ziggurat and spread the news far and wide. Her words found home in the ears of the gull. Yaisha's slave caste. No slaves could hope to challenge the power of an immortal aristocracy. But what about a nobility in disarray? One where the great and powerful would soon fight for scraps of fruit like bare-ribbed dogs. They rose, first singly, then in a tidal wave. The Empress found herself at war. Perhaps she might have won.
やっぱこれ
If
ナブ
not
ーン
for the destroyer.
ナブーンと共に戦ったレムナント1だな。ナバン護衛だったよ。破壊者
It
とはなんだ。
bridled when I called it God Murderer. Surprised I am that it should know so little of the deep track its kind have trekked across our soil.
そなたの種
Let
族って
us
言ってる。やっぱそうだよ
walk
ね。
those prints now, that it should be enlightened.
オッケー、ナバン
Ever
護
was
衛だ
Gina
ったの？
served by the Red Widows. She was still Widow Mother. Is still, if such a thing has any meaning now. Some among the widow's ranks forswore tenderness, and became instead her permanence's highest guard. Gina's herself had been the lowest widow in her order, and she had turned Pan society inside out. How fitting, then, that the last and least of her own widow guard should become her greatest adversary. It has heard of Yaisha civil war, of slave with blade of hoe to neck of noble, and noble with point of sword to belly of slave. Into that tempest walked one of its kind, Paxotech. I cannot say why, though perhaps it might someday tell me from whence. Whatever its motive. Hither came the destroyer, even as the Pan turned their ravenous gaze toward the fruit of immortality. Our god of many faces remained satisfied with the scant worship of the vaunts and the commoners. It was an ever-present comfort. A guardian we scarcely thought of. The destroyer, Paxotech, oh yes, its kind, drove its blade into the pure heart of our guardian. We knew not that it was the god of many faces who kept the root from this world. But in death, many faces' absence was soon felt. In a world already torn by war, where caste let blood of caste, there came reports of some new woe. Travelers spoke of twisted horrors on the road, but we who relished in the weight of this wall only scoffed. Who knew that the very air could rip, that the world itself could tear and spill like a wine-skin under hoof. Oh, how we fought, priest and prince and pauper, side by side, our world's lifeblood drizzling through our fingers as we clutched at the hanging tatters of Yaisha's slit throat. Most perished, and I became enmeshed. I thought our tale told, our race run, and yet, among the Pan there is a saying. Why just ask the Rin? I
言っ
gave
て
the
誰？
impression perhaps that
長いの
Yaisha
は
was uninhabited at the arrival of the Pan, save for the doe, the wolf, the birds, and the beasts. This is not so. The Rin slink Yaisha's canopy on leathery wings. Perhaps they once thought to defend their forest. But Lash and Lure put that to rest. Lash, in that no Rin could hope to withstand the onslaught of energy we Pan have learned to draw from Yaisha's native crystal. The Flying Ones have no talent for crystal craft. Lure, in that under normal circumstances, Rin eggs reach maturity only with great difficulty. I know not who first discovered the potential for symbiosis between our species. Only that It is a whimsical god indeed who sends the most precious resource one kind could hope to acquire out the hind end of the other.
鳥神ちゃんとパン一族はだから水晶を中心にしてつながったんだね。で、何
As
どういう意
sure
味？
as there is iron in the soil of Yesha, there is irony. It was a pad-footed Paxeltech who slew our guardian and brought the root. Would it be so strange to see a Paxeltech drive them from our shores? Perhaps. Perhaps as with Genus and the Voon. The strangeness is the point. It has done me a service unpayable. No reward can suffice. But perhaps, if it cannot be rewarded, it can be equipped. Colket brought war, then wisdom. Its forebears brought the root, but its wisdom stayed the flames, that I might live beyond the hated knot. Take this now, as a token of my gratitude.
またなんかくれた。目標成功。あ、そうなの？なんかもろた。長いお話聞いたらなんかくれた。何聞いててよかった。これ大事なやつなんじゃないの？ありがとうだけど。
The pan must put their faith in action and belief, not weapons and walls. I forever owe it thanks, as shall the many souls scattered on these steps. To them I must tend. Be well, two-handed warrior. Be strange fate's agent.
すごい。話聞いまたねしなくていいことあるんだな。何回折れそうになったことか。でも話綺麗だな。今のこの話だけで2時間3時間2時間のやつ2本分ぐらいの映画ができると思う。すごいな。何くれた？なんかいっぱいもろた。まずもらったのは武骨。召喚の体力を 10% 増加。召喚の体力？まあ私の後ろのホワホワちゃんは体力はないからね。なんか生き物召喚できるようになるんだな。でなんだアミュレットくれたのか。びっくりだわ。思考のネックレス。7秒間ダメージを受けずにいると全てのダメージが15% 増加する。体力がフルの場合 25% 増加する。ちょっと待って。ちょっと待って。今ついてるのが 20% 増加。違う。これはボス戦でもらえたのか。思考のネックレス。こっちだ。これレミールの頭についてるやつだよね。もっと持続時間が 50% 増加。もっとコストが 15% 増加。50% ふわふわがずっと浮いてんの。ボスやれちまうんじゃない？すごい大事なやつじゃん。ありがとう。いやーでも今ちょっと火力かな。もうしばらく火力だな。やれないボス戦が来た時これで今つけてるやつでやってもらうのはいいな。そうか、ありがとう。ありがとう。すごいもっと強化の人だった。
The Paxeltech has become full-minded scholar.
全部のお話聞いたんだね、私。
I honor it.
オッケー。お元気で、ここの人たちの埋葬というか、弔いお願いしますね。あなたも生きててよかった。ギューしたい。絶対に重くてぐるんぐるんできない自信がある。ギューだ、ギュー。ありがとう。お付き合いいただいた皆様ありがとうございました。まさかね、こんなのがあると思って聞いてたわけじゃないんだけど、長いなと思いながら、でもそのパン一族がね、何があったかっていうその歴史を知るね、お話私好きなので聞いてただけなんですけど、それにしてもやっぱりちょっと長いなレムナントと思いながらね。 でもこれを知ってることでやっぱね、次またお話どこかで聞けた時にね、違ったりもしますからね。だし、ちょっと待って、これはここはここで行き止まれの下文字。ここから先はねえんだ。そっか。これ地下開かないのかな。ここ開きそうじゃない？開かないのかな。次来た時ここ地下開いてお家作ってないかな、この人。一緒にモード13に来ればいいのにな。よーし。なんか儲かってしまった。 50% の時間増はね、絶対にめちゃめちゃでかいよこれ。まさかのでした。何にも変わってない。移動しないと変わらないかな。 OK。 じゃあまた会いに来るよ。ヤックルに乗って。でもあれだな、どう鹿さんだったんだね。私鹿さん何体かやっちまったけどな。ごめんの気持ちだ。でつまりここはこれで終わりだから帰るしかないのか。とりあえずセクター13に戻る。強化できるかな。やっつけたからまたなんか指輪があるはず。ただいま。あるはずだし、そうか、なんか素材、ボスの素材もらったはず。もうね、倒した時必死すぎて何にも覚えてねえんだな。いや素材ないパティンじゃねえ。ないな。素材ない感じ。
All right, let's see what. Okay, we're
な
done.
かったんだ。ありがとう。そうか、雑魚たちをやっつけただけだもんね。そっかそっか。
Don't keep trying, hey.
よし。鉄だけが増えてる。鉄使いましょう。で指輪が買える。どうしようかな。パーフェクトどっちで体力回復だけもらっとこうかな。いやーでもこの苦悩の岩も強いよね。 HP 減るごとにリロード速度が速いってめっちゃ強いんよな。いやでも回復あってなんぼか。よし。やべえ。
Take care of yourself, you hear me?
鉄買いすぎたんじゃない？私お金足りないんじゃない？お金足りんくなった。強化できんかった。なんてこった。鍛えられた鉄は今からのエリアで出てくるんかな。出てくればいいけどね。あらやだ、強化できないわ。次帰ってきた時にすっか。買っとくか。
Hey, you're. Take care of yourself, you hear me?
サンキュー。話長かったっていうか、もう話で終わっちまったんじゃないかな。まずいな、何にもできてない。
The sun shines. Of course.
オッケー、ありがとう。
All
パン族の人だからさ、なんかお話変わったかなと思ったけど、何も変わってなかったわ。そっか、今私の方にはどっしりとこのパン族の歴史がずっしり載ってますが、ここチェキポがちっちゃいからさ、この人に会いに来るのちょっと大変だね。どう？一旦動いたけど弔い終わってねえな。何も変わらないかな。もう簡単にあなたに会いに来れないからな。ありがとね。
There is no more I can teach the two-handed warrior. It has heard all. Still, I welcome its company.
ああ、そっか、全部お話終わったんだね。はい。というわけで、なんということでしょう。お時間が来てしまったようです。お話聞くだけで終わっちゃったな。ね、わかる？チュートリアルからね、始まって、エリアに来て話を聞くだけで2時間持ってかれましたと言いましたが、こんな感じなんですよ。ここまでは長くないけどね。さすがにこれ、今までそのレムナント1の前のそのパン族のお話とレムナント1でのその反乱の時代のお話とパンのすべてが今ここで分かりましたからね。はい。というわけで次回新たなエリアまた冒険に出ましょう。お楽しみに。ではでは。ヤギっぽいのないかな。疲労、失敗、困惑。いやー、これしかないっしょ。またねー。